Today, our Group 5, will be presenting about our group project. I will start the presentation. Disclosure of MFRS 108, changes in accounting policies, estimates and error. There are three common changes in accounting policies that can be observed by us among all the companies. First of all, MFRS 9, financial instruments. All the 5 companies recognize these changes retrospectively without any restatement. Next, MFRS 15, revenue from contract with customers. Sapura Resources Berhad and CN Asia Corporation Berhad recognize these changes retrospectively with restatement, while NEHB and MISC Berhad recognize these changes retrospectively without any restatement. Lastly, MFRS 16 leases. NEHB, the only company, recognized these changes retrospectively with restatement, while another 4 companies recognize these changes retrospectively without any restatement. Restatement here means that the adjustment will be made to the comparative amounts in the current financial year. Disclosure of MFRS 110 events after reporting period. In 2018, NEHB and CN Asia Corporation reported non-adjusting events, while in 2019, NEHB, CN Asia Corporation and J Capital Berhad reported non-adjusting event in their financial statement, while Sapura Resources reported an adjusting event in 2019, which is a major combination of subsidiaries through purchase of shares that have pre-existing condition. Last but not least, in 2020, NEHB, J Capital Berhad, CN Asia Corporation and Sapura Resources reported non-adjusting events. For non-adjusting event, only disclosure to the notes to the financial statement are made by companies. For adjusting event that are reported by Sapura Resources in 2019, the impact to the financial statement or adjustment to the financial statement are, now, STSB company will become an indirect 95% owned subsidiary of the company via MSSB.
Good day everyone, now I will continue to present disclosure of MFRS 116 property, plant and equipment. For this project, we determine those companies are using cost model as the subsequent measurement of their PPE. Under the cost model, PPE is measured at cost less accumulated depreciation and impairment loss after recognition. Besides that, these 5 companies use the straight line method as their depreciation method. Let's move on to MFRS 136 impairment. As we can see, the table above shows the impairment loss on PPE of 5 companies. The impairment loss is measured when an asset's carrying amount is more than recoverable amount. In addition, the recoverable amount is the higher of fair value less cost to sales or value in use. The first company is Nationwide Express Holding Berhad. The impairment loss is reduced by $3,143,000 from year 2019 to year 2020. Next is Sapura Resources Berhad. The impairment loss is decreased by $5,225,000 from year 2018 to year 2020, because in year 2019 is no impairment loss. The third company is CN Asia Corporation Berhad. The impairment loss is only 1 year, which is $15,000 in year 2019. Besides that, based on the table, the net impairment loss for the MISC Berhad are rising rapidly every year is due to the marine and heavy engineering business was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Last but not least, there is no impairment loss for J Capital Berhad and no reversal of impairment loss on PPE for these 5 companies in these 3 years. Thank you. I will pass the presentation for my next member.
Next, I'm going to present the disclosure of key audit matters of the chosen companies. For NEHB, the first one is revenue recognition. There is a possibility of overstatement of the revenue after considering the magnitude and high volume of transaction that can cause material misstatement in the timing of recognition and revenue. Then the second one is impairment of PPE. In 2018, the group engaged an external valuer to determine the fair value of the leasehold land and properties, while in 2019, the group focused on impairment tests of leasehold land and buildings by using few procedures. Sapura Resources Berhad first key audit method is valuation of investment properties. This key audit matter stated that in its financial account, it must review the fair value of its investment properties. The investment properties of this company was appraised by an independent professional valuers on 31st January 2018. There are only two key audit matters in CN Asia Corporation Berhad from 2018 until 2020. The first one is inventories. Since the inventory is valued at a lower cost and net realizable value, management judgment is necessary for establishing their net realizable worth and the appropriateness of write-downs of the outmoded and slow-moving inventory. Another key audit matter is trade receivables. The trade receivables are susceptible to credit risk due to default, so management must exercise considerable judgment in determining the probability of default and recoverability of trade receivables. For MISC Berhad, recognition of revenue and cost of construction and marine projects. Most of the group's revenue and profits are generated by long-term construction and marine projects that span more than one accounting period. In accounting for these long-term contracts, the group uses the percentage of completion. Next, contingent liability. There are several subsidiaries of MISC Berhad that receive notice of arbitration, but they do not make any provision for this claim since they believe they have a fair chance of defending it. Lastly, for impairment of investment subsidiary, trade receivable, goodwill and right of use asset in NEHB, for Sapura Resource Berhad, impairment of BBE for aviation segment and impairment of investment in subsidiaries and amount due from subsidiaries, MISC Berhad's impairment of goodwill and non-current asset, and G Capital Berhad, which are impairment assessment on the carrying amount of the capital work in process and goodwill. These impairments becomes key audit matter because of the assessment of impairment involves significant judgment and estimates regarding the recoverable amount.
For financial statement analysis in the year 2020, ROA, ROE, net profit margin and EBITDA margin show a negative value except for EBITDA margin of MISC Berhad. Other than that, all items under profitability ratio of G Capital Berhad also show a positive value. Next, all company current ratio have a constant decrease with positive value until 2020 except G Capital Berhad that fluctuate with positive value that decreased from 2018 to 2019 that increased in 2020. Besides that, account receivable turnover show a decrease with positive value until 2020 except for G Capital Berhad that fluctuate with positive value that decreased from 2018 to 2019 that increased in 2020. Next, account turnover for all the companies show a decrease with positive value. Other than that, debt to asset ratio show a constant increase with positive value until 2020 in contrast with G Capital Berhad that show a constant decrease with positive value until 2020. Lastly, EPS for all the company in 2020 show a negative value except for G Capital that show a positive value. In conclusion, the financial statement for the company is better before COVID-19, that is in the year 2018 until 2019, compared to after COVID-19 in 2020, except for G Capital Berhad. Based on the figure profitability ratio before COVID-19, we can see that it fluctuates whether increase or decrease. But after COVID-19, most of the companies show a decrease and negative value. In conclusion, the ability of the company in generating its profit is affected with COVID-19. Next, as we can see from liquidity ratio, G Capital Berhad has the highest current ratio throughout the 3 years, followed by CN Asia Corporation Berhad, Sapura Resources Sdn Berhad and NMIC Berhad. Nationwide Express Holding Berhad has the lowest current ratio in all 3 years. For activity ratio, the account receivable turnover of Nationwide Express Holding Berhad is higher than MISC Berhad. In contrast, G Capital Berhad fluctuates significantly. Besides that, Sapura Resources Sdn Berhad keep decreasing constantly, while CN Asia Corporation Berhad was fluctuates insignificantly in this 3 years. For asset turnover ratio, Nationwide Express Holding Berhad was the highest among other company. Next, for leverage ratio, before COVID-19, Sapura Resources Sdn Berhad has the lowest leverage ratio, while in during COVID-19, G Capital Berhad has the lowest leverage ratio. For market prospect ratio before COVID-19 in 2018, only Nationwide Express Holding Berhad EPS is negative. In 2019, the three companies in transportation and logistics sector have positive EPS, while other two companies were at loss. In 2020, only G Capital Berhad has a positive EPS.
I will proceed to descriptive analysis. Our group identified 5 terms, which is ROA, ROE, debt to asset ratio, EPS, and total key audit matters. As shown in the table, total key audit matters with an average of 266.7% and a minimum value of 200%. Furthermore, the sample company's median, maximum value, and standard deviation of total key audit matters is 200%, 400%, and 90% respectively. Next, research model. The research model is essentially dependent on what we want to test to see whether it has any effect of company performance. We discover that firm performance consists of ROA and ROE equal to beta plus debt to asset ratio plus EPS plus total key audit matters. So this is our research model for regression analysis. For ROA regression statistic, the adjusted R-square is 0.78, meaning that 78% of the variables that we have chosen explain the variability in ROA. Second, the value of ANOVA analysis of the significant F for ROA is 0.0001. That means the model is fit and good. Lastly, we can see that p-value of debt to asset ratio and total key audit matters is significant since the value is less than 0.1. For ROE regression statistic, the adjusted R-square is 0.85, meaning that 85% of the variables that we have chosen explain the variability in ROE. Next, the value of ANOVA analysis of significant F for ROE is good and fit since the significant F is less than 0.05. Finally, we can see that the p-value for debt to asset ratio and total key audit matters again is significant since the value is less than 0.1.